This conference will now be recorded.
So in the last class, we have started seeing with our programming, and we have seen about how to configure your the ABAP editor and how to configure your pretty printer settings and all these things we have seen. And then we have seen about the first and the foremost is your write statement, so which is used to print some data in your output. But in real time, we will never ever use your write statement. We will never ever use until and unless if they told that they just want to see the total number of records that are processed, or whether the connection has been successfully created and it has sent the data, like some type of messages if they want, then only we will be using the write statement. If for displaying of data or anything, we will never ever use your write statements in your real time. Instead of that, to display the data, either we will use your function modules or we will be using your class methods. So this is what we will be doing it now. Now this we have discussed, and then we have started seeing of your text elements. So what is the importance of your text elements? So in real time, we should never, one second guys, sorry for that. Okay, so in real time, we should never ever use the hard coding, the hard coding in your program. The hard coding has to be replaced with your text elements, or we will be replacing with your constant declarations. So when we will be using your constant declarations and when we will be using your text. So if you want to print some data in your output, then we will be using your text elements. Like for example, I want to print the header of my the table output. So in that case, we have to use the hard coding values to print the header. So that we will be replacing with your text elements. Whereas the constant declarations, like I want to get the details of order type, the normal order, which is nothing but OR. So I want to get only the details of my OR. So this OR, now we will be keeping this in our where clauses, right? We will be keeping that in your where clauses. So this where clause, so if you want only these particular details, so then as this is going to be a hard coding value, then we will be replacing this hard coding value with your constant declarations. So in the where clause, whatever you are going to pass, that we are going to keep it in your constant declarations, and remaining things we will be going to keep in your text elements. Remember that. So now the importance of creating the text elements, the importance of creating the text element is mainly to maintain the translations, like for example, I want to see the output in German, so the headings has to be automatically converted into German. Yesterday I has already told you, we have SAP has been there in 54 languages. So and then it's still upgrading it, and they want to introduce that in Telugu, Tamil, and Marathi and Kannada. I think Telugu, Tamil, I know. Hindi, sorry, Telugu, Tamil, and Hindi. They want to introduce this SAP also. That's as for the 2020 census I was telling you. So right now, whether they have been launched it or not, I'm not sure about that. So by default, by default, when you purchase SAP, it will be available only in English and German. So German, we will be writing it as DE. So German. So, and the remaining languages, so you have to request your basis. So whatever the languages it has to be, we need to request the basis to install the language patches. So the language patches will be installed by your basis. Like for example, if you want French or if you want Italy, so Italian, or if you want Russian. So all these languages you have to ask your basis to install the patches. So they will be going into the SAP marketplace, and they will be downloading the patch of that, and they will be installing at the OS level. They'll be installing at the OS level. That's the that's the basic activity. We are not responsible for that, for installing of your languages and everything. Okay. So now, how can we do the translations? So let me log on to my SAP system. So now I'm going to SE38. So I just open the program which we have created. This is the program which we have created. Let's go on the change mode. So now what we are doing, we have seen this text element. Now how to create a translations. Now the translations in real time, we need to check with the client what 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 they exactly need, how the text has to be translated. So the translations will be provided by your client. So remember that translations will always be provided by your client. We are not responsible for the translations. So the translations will always be provided by your client. Okay, so we have to check with the client for translations. So don't use your Googles. So you have to check with your client. But anyways, so in our thing we are going to check with your Google. So double click on this. So what is that? So this is your welcome to SAP ABAP thing. So I'm going to say this from English to German. So I'm going to type this. So this is what the German thing is. Now how to maintain that? So to maintain that, so click on go to and click on your translations. Click on go to and click on your translations. So the original language is English, and what is your target language? So if I click on F4, see here you will be getting only your German language. But whatever the languages that they have been added, so you can see it over here in your languages. Like if they have added the French, you can see that in your French, like that you can go ahead and see that. So or else let me remove this, and maybe because we are just checking with this, right? So it's showing this. No, we do have only German. Now you have to provide the German and just click on enter. Now here, this is in the attributes description we have provided, right? For your description also you can maintain your translations, and for your text elements. Now I'm just going to replace that with this text element. So now I'll just copy it over here and I'll be pasting it, and just say click on enter. It will turns from red to yellow. When it turns from red to yellow, that means the translation is changed. The translation has been maintained. Now just save it. That's it. So once you have saved it and come back, now let me log on with my German. So now double click on this. So now I'm going to maintain that in DE and just say click on enter. So now I have logged in with my DE. So the German language I have been logged in my German language. Now I'm going to my SC38. Now select this, and when I click on execute, you can see here it has came into your German language automatically. So the coding effort will also get reduced when you go ahead with your translations. Okay, so this is how you have to maintain your translations in your real time. Okay, so now the next thing. So the next thing is, by seeing this text, we can't able to know what is the value inside this. You have to just double click on this, and then only we can able to see what is inside in this text element. What is inside this in this text element, you can able to know by seeing this. Now, instead of that, so we can able to know the text over here at the last. After this, after your completing of your text elements, open your circular brackets and maintain your text id. Now just double click on this, it will automatically creates your text id. See here, it will automatically create, you don't need to pass that. Now just activate this your report text. So that's it. So this is how, this is the one which we will be follow, which we will follow in real time. In real time. So we just need to see this, at least this text ID number. So this is one of the checks which I told you yesterday we'll be seeing in your real time. So this is how we will be maintaining the text elements in our real time. That's it. So simple. Now, so now the next thing is we are going to see about your data declarations. What is meant by your data declarations? The next thing we are going to see something called as your data declarations. What is meant by this? Data declarations. So the data declarations. So if I want to store, if I need to store some values in runtime. So that means, or while executing the program execution, then we will use these data declarations. If I want to store the data if I want to store that, if I want to store the values in a runtime, then we will be using these data declarations. So these data declarations is of three things. One is the variables, one is the work area, or you can call it as structure. Also, and the third one is table, and the third one is your the third one. So variables, to store single values, to store single values, then we will be using your variables. Where work area, to store single record, then we will be using this work area or your structures. And next, internal table, to store multiple values, then we will be using your internal table. Then we will be using this internal table. So then we will be using this internal table. In real time, for declaring of this variables, work area and internal table, we have the naming standards. So for declaring, we have the naming standards. So we have to follow this naming standards while you are declaring your work variables or work areas or your internal tables. Now, in this, we do have, so one is the global. So how you are going to declare it as in the global, you can declare it as well as in your local. So you can declare that in your global as well as in your local. So the variables, the work areas and internal tables, you can declare it in global as well as in your local. So these naming standards, so they can also place that in a transaction code called as SCI. So SCI, which is used in your code inspector. So which is nothing but your code inspector. So inspector. So it's a tool which has been provided by SAP to inspect your code, whether all the checks that you have been maintained or not, that will be checked by your code inspector. So this we are going to see when we are going to speak out with your SAP S4. When we are dealing with your SAP S4, we are going to see about this code inspector. We can maintain the naming standards of your program inside your code inspector. Let me show you that where we will be maintaining. So how to maintain this, I'll be showing you at a later point of time. So SSEI, so the code inspector. Here I'm going to say, so these are some of the checks that we will be. Okay, let me just say click on display. Okay, so anyways, so we will be having this code inspector where we can maintain this naming standards. So for declaring, we can declare the variables, work areas and internal tables in two ways. One is your global and one is your local. What is meant by this global? So global is when you are writing in your current program. That means when you are declaring in your main program, when you're declaring the variables in your main program, that's called as global. Declaring in the main program or in the top include. So you will be seeing this include programs. So in that we will be seeing something called as a top include, where we will be declaring all your data declarations and everything will be declaring over here. So at that time we have to use your local, whereas the local, when we declare in the subprograms, like in the main program, if I want to call a subprogram, so like with the help of your include programs, so we will be having something called as an include programs, or you will be having something called as subroutines, or inside your class methods, or inside your function modules. Inside your function modules, then we will be going and declaring that in your local. So now for global, we will be declaring this as GV underscore GV, global variable, and you will be providing your description, whatever the description you want, as well as for your local LV underscore your description. LV underscore your description. Whereas for work area, some people will write it as CWA underscore your description, or some people will write it as GS underscore your description. GS underscore your description, and then LWA underscore your description, or LS underscore your description. LS underscore your description. This is what they will be writing it. Whereas for the internal table, we will be writing it as GD underscore the description, whatever the description we have, and then the LT. So this is the naming standards which we will be using for declaring of your variables for areas as well as your internal tables. Let me see this. So here you will be seeing this programming conventions. So here you will be having your naming conventions. Now here they can maintain that. See here, global as well as your local. So types. constants, data. So right now we are seeing your data, and then field symbols, and then parameters, and then select options. In the same way, so for your local. So locals, how you can declare your types. So constants, data, and field symbols. We will be seeing these types, the field symbols and constants at a later point of time. And then coming to your classes and interfaces. So how the class has to be started with, how the interface has to be started with. Inside the class, how if you want to declare your types declarations, how it has to be. So like this. So this is when you're writing the class inside your program. So you can create the class in two ways. One is at your global level, how you are creating your table in SE level. In the same way, we can create the class at globally, and we can create the class locally. Locally means inside our program we can create our class also. So the method parameters. So how you want. So importing, exporting, changing, and parameter. So the functions. So this is nothing but your function modules, how you want, and this forms is nothing but your subroutines. So the subroutines, how you want. So like this. So these are the naming conventions. Now when you maintain this SCI variant, we will be checking this with this SCI variant in our runtime, in our real time, to see whether the code is up to the standards or not. To see the code is up to the standards or not. So and then we will be, so this screenshot, so we will be taking the screenshot of that output, and we will be putting that in your checklist document, the code checklist document. In real time we will be having, once you complete your code, you will be doing your code checklist. So the first thing is whether, so you have to manually say whether it is up to the mark or not, and you need to compare the versions. So if it is a support, you have to compare your versions. The previous version has been moved to your production or not. How can we see the version comparison is? So when I activate this, it will be in my TR, right? So utility is version and version management. So here the active version TR will be shown up when we have released the TR. The released versions will be shown in this, in the below it will be showing you the released version. So let me go ahead and create one temporary version for you. I'm just creating a generate version. So the version has been generated. So just for a namesake I have created this. So we should not do this in our real time. So to show you how it will be. Now this is your version. So 001 is your version. So like that. So the versions will be gets appending. So whenever you release the TR, now we have to check whether the last TR has been moved to your production or not. Maybe the same program can be utilized at multiple places. So a subprogram has been used in program 1, program 2, and program 3. If Girish is working on program 1 and Ravi is working on program 3, both having the same include program, and that include program, Girish has done the changes, I have done the changes. So how to merge that? So we have to move our two TRs at the same time. We have to move our two TRs at the same time to our quality, to our production system. So that's our responsibility to check whether we have any TR dependencies. We have any TR dependencies, and the last TRs has been moved to your production or not. In case of your support projects, it's your responsibility to check that. I'll be showing you my real-time document of how our TR checklist documents will looks like. However, TR checklist documents will looks like. We will be checking. I'll be showing you that. So we will be checking the version comparison, and we will also check dependencies. The dependencies check. If we are moving, if any dependency will be causing any issue or not, that we will be going to check it. For the new things, we don't need to check all those things. We will be checking the code inspector and the SLIN, extended syntax check. The SLIN is nothing but your extended syntax check. So that we will be checking in your real time. So that we will be seeing at a later point of time. Don't worry about that. Okay. So these are some of your code list check documents which we'll be seeing that. Now, how to declare these variables? So we are going to see how can we declare this variables. So we'll just write this as the commenting mode as data declarations, and then so we will be writing this as data. So I'll just say gv underscore your description, whatever the description is. So we'll be writing it as type. So what characteristics you want to pass it to this variable? What characteristics? So you can pass your characteristics by your own with the help of your predefined type, or you can pass the characteristics from your data element, or you can pass the characteristics from your table hyphen field. So the table hyphen field, the standard table hyphen field, or you can pass the characteristics from your structure hyphen field. So this is how we can able to pass your characteristics to your variable. So that means what is the data type and what is the length. So if you are going to define your predefined type, so that will be the same thing. So character 10 I want to provide. So now my GV description is of character 10. Now the data element will contains again your the properties of your field. The properties is the characteristics. So the same characteristics will be passed. So in this data declaration, it will pass the characteristics. Remember that, or the properties. The properties like your data type and the length. That's it. Data type and the length. And if you have any conversion routine, you can able to use your conversion routine. I have told you when we are dealing with your domain. So that we can able to pass in your data declarations. Now I want to create a data declaration for character with the length 10. With the length 10. So how you will be defining data? So as I writing, the column is nothing but multiple. It can accept multiple. So if after one single thing, you can place your comma separator and you can write your multiple, which I told you in your yesterday's class with a write statement. Okay. So now I'll say gv underscore variable 1 type. So if you want to say it as character, you can provide it as character 10 or character 20 or character 30 or character 40 like this. So char 10. This is one way of declaring. The other way is data gv underscore variable 2 type c. So whether you can possible C or integer or decimal or like that n. So like that you can provide that. So character, numeric, decimal and integer. Character, numeric, decimal and integer. If I get this as T and I can say value, length, not value, length 10. So this is also one way of declaring your variables. The another way is data gv underscore variable 3. So you will be passing the length over here and the type you can provide it as C. This is also one way of declaring. Now if I do my pretty printer, see here the code will be gets aligned. Now when I click on check, no issues at all. So in these three formats, you can use any of your format. No issues with that. But right now, so this is the old way of declaring your variables and how to pass the data. So how to pass the data. So to pass the data, we'll be saying this as whatever the variable we have. So gv underscore variable 1 is equal to let's say some text. I'm just going to pass this. That's it. So this is how. And next, how to display the data. In order to display the data, we will be saying this as a height and we'll be passing the variable name. We'll be passing your variable name. So that's it. Now do your pretty printer. And now let's activate your code and let me click on execute. Now see here, the same thing has been printed. The same thing has been printed. So this is how you have to display your variable. So now in from the latest versions, like so this whatever the syntax is which currently I'm showing you, we can use that in SAP ECC, SAP ECC, sorry, SAP ERP, ERP 6.0, EHP 7.4. So EHP 7.4. So that we will be shortcuts, we will be calling it as SAP ECC 7.4 version onwards. So SAP ECC 7.4 version. That means these are compatible to HANA DB. Compatible to HANA DB. So HANA DB. That means so when you are replacing that with HANA, so you don't need to change these programs. You don't need to change these programs at all. We don't need to change these programs. Everything is compatible with HANA DB. How can we know what is your what this we will be the 740 is nothing but so 7.4 or we will be calling it as 740. So this 740 is nothing but your ABAP stack version. What is your ABAP stack version? So if the ABAP stack version is greater than or equal to 740, then you can able to use the new syntaxes. Then we can able to use your completely the new syntaxes. From 700 onwards, these are compatible to HANA DB, but the new syntaxes, all the new syntaxes, the updated new syntaxes has came from 740 onwards. So which is nothing but your inline declarations, read table syntaxes has been changed. The adding of data to the internal tables has been changed. Like that, it has changed so many syntaxes from ABAP stack 740 version. How can we know which ABAP stack we are going to use? To check this, click on System. Let me activate the code. Click on System and click on your status. Click on System and click on your status and see the product version. So here you can able to see what is your DB. I just told you the database system is MS SQL. It's not an HANA DB. So that means it's an ECC system. It's an ECC system. And if you go to your product versions, you can see here the SAP ABA, which is nothing but your cross application component or the ABAP stack component, which is 740. The release is 009. And if you go to your installed product version, these are all your core ECC components. When I open my HANA system, so which HANA system you are going to use? So that we have to check it. So that we have to check this. So for that, click on System and click on your status. Click on System and click on your status. Now you can see here the database is HDB. The database is HDB, the HANA database. Now, if I go to your product version, so here, see here the product version. So here 750F, so which is the latest, very latest. So 750F is the very latest. Right now it has been changed to 760 also. 760 also. Now in the installed product versions, you can see here ABAP Platform 2020. So that means we are using the HANA DB 2020 version. So if it is 2021, then it is a 2021. If it is 2022, then it is the 2022. So this way you can know what is your ABAP stack component. So whether we can able to use the new syntaxes or not. But currently, right now, whatever the systems we are using that in your real time are 100%, I would say right now, 100% greater than this 740 version. 100% greater than this 740 version. So you can able to use your new syntaxes. So which is nothing but here. So the first thing is the inline declarations. Inline declarations. So what is meant by this inline declarations? So these inline declarations are nothing but, so we can declare the data in while writing the code, writing the while writing the code. So that means you don't need to separately declare your data declarations. We don't need to separately declare. So here I'm separately declaring my data declarations, but it will be taking, so will always use a type. So what is the type it will be used is var char. Only the variable character is the type it will be used. The integer, or if you want to use any other things, so you have to declare it. You have to declare it. So remember that. So that's not much advanced on this. See with the character, because the character can store all the things, whether it can be a uh, whether it can be a letters, or whether it can be a numbers, or whether it can be a special characters. Everything can be stored with the help of your character. uh, Numeric, it won't store your character values in, and then whereas integers, it will store the negatives and positives, but it negative values will store the characters and decimals. The positive and negative decimals, but it can't able to store your characters. Whereas to store the characters and decimals and everything, we can use your character. We can use your character. So that's why SAP by default it has taken that. So now how can we declare this? So while writing the code, we'll just say data of gv underscore variable 4. So that's it, is equal to whatever the value you want. So the length will be, so how the length will be calculated for this variable. So what text we are going to populate on this, with the text we are the first text, I would say the first text of characters of the text, and automatically populate it to this. Now let's say for example, so for the next time you can directly use this variable as you have already populated. So right now how many values, what is the length? 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 and 10. So the 10 characters. So let me pass this again. So now, so we will see this. So here I'm going to say, right, I'm going to pass this as gv underscore variable 4. I'll be showing you the debugging in tomorrow's session, and then I'll also show you this one too. Right, right, gv underscore your variable 4. So that's it. Now I'm using the same tool. Now I'm just going to activate my code, and now when I click on execute, see here, see the same length. So whatever the length which it has been taken for the very first time, it will use the same length in going forward. It will use the same length in going forward. So this is how you can declare your data, you can declare your variables in line. So that means without declaring the data declarations, you can directly declare your data. While writing your ABAP logic. That's called as your inline declarations. So this is possible for all the syntaxes which are there in SAP. This is possible for all the syntaxes which is there in SAP. Okay.
So if it's taking the second time, the value is truncated as per the length of the first one, right? Then it's not
right?
holding the
So that's
entire value, isn't it?
right. That's what I told you, right? The length will be gets calculated for the very first value what we provided. What we provided. So it will calculate the length. The length will be gets calculated for the very first value what we have provided to this variable. To this variable. So later on onwards, it will continue to use the same length. If you want to increase also, you can't able to do that until and unless you have to change this value to this position and this value to this position. So by that only you
Okay.
can change the value of that. Okay,
Okay.
clear?
So we only have to change the values then. Okay.
Yeah. So that's only for variable. Okay. So now for structures and all these things, based upon your based upon, so the structure is a collection of fields. So based upon your fields, it will automatically create your structure. So that's we are going to see in your day after tomorrow's session. So mostly, so this is how the variable declarations we can do it in your real time. This is how the variable declarations we can do it in your real time with the help of your inline declarations. So we usually use this inline declarations when you want to pass the values into a temporary variables. So let's say, for example, I want to use that value at some point of time. So I mean, so I have this value, and this value I want to use after 500 lines of code. After my 500 lines of code, maybe in between that this value is going to be changed. Then in that case we will be passing that to a temporary variable. Now let's say, for example, so how we will be writing data gv underscore variable 4 underscore tmp is equal to gv underscore variable 4. So like this. Now whatever the characteristics that we have, that will be automatically applicable to your temporary variable, the temporary variable. Or if I say this as variable 2, so which we have declared in your data declarations, so which is of line 10. So now the 10 characteristics will be assigned. So here also we are just assigning the 10 characteristics. So let's say, for example, if I take this greater than 10 gv underscore variable 1. So here also, if I pass a value greater than 10, it will just populate the first 10 digits in your output. It will just populate the first 10 digits in your output. So sorry, I forgot to keep the full stop. So now when I click on execute, see the first 10 characteristics, the 10 characters has been populated in your output. So the length here you are fixing it in your while declaring it. So the length in this inline declaration will be gets fixed for the what is the first value we are going to pass. What is the first value we are going to pass? Okay, clear? Clear, guys? Any questions?
So Ravi,
Any
say for
questions on that?
example, I have declared. Sorry, Ravi. Can you hear me?
Chetan, your voice is breaking for me. Sorry for that. Can you repeat it?
Can you hear me, Ravi? Now is
Yeah,
it
yeah,
clear?
it's been clear.
So I have declared a variable with the length of 40 characters. Okay,
Hmm.
but I have given my data as only 10 characters. So is
Hmm.
the for the remaining 30 characters is space is getting added automatically, or it will be like a dynamic length?
No, no. If you declare it as 40, it will show you. So okay, let me go ahead and show you that too. Now, when I say this as this is character 40 and this is my character 10. So this I'm going to provide this as variable 2, and here I'll just pass it to my 10. Pass value dynamically. So 10. So now if I pass it as gv variable 1, comma, gv variable 2. So the gv variable length is 40 and gv variable 2 is 10. Now when I activate this one, and now when I click on execute, see the remaining spaces. So if you select this, the length is 40 characters. Automatically the space will be there.
Okay.
Clear?
Yeah. So Ravi, now if I do the, say for example, I have given the same value for the var2 and var1. Just if I want to do the comparison, it will fail, right, because of the spaces.
Sorry, can you repeat that?
So for the GV var1, I am going to give the same value, and just I want to write an if condition, if GV var1 equal to GV var2, then print something like
Hmm.
it's matching. Now in this case,
Yeah, it
since
will.
the space is getting right, it will fail, right?
No, 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 no. It won't fail. It won't. It won't. It will check the value which is there in that. So if it is equal,
Okay,
so
okay,
let's say for example, if I say this, so as you know the if conditions, I'm just telling you with the if conditions. So the same thing. Now I'll say if gv underscore variable 1 is equal to gv underscore variable 2, then I will just write it as true. I'm just going to write this as true. Now when I activate this one, now when I click on execute, you can get the answer as true.
okay,
It will
okay,
check the value equal to or not. It won't check, it won't compare the length. It won't compare the length.
okay, okay, okay. Thanks, Ravi.
Okay. Yeah. So how to pass dynamically the value? There is one more question. How can we pass value by dynamically in inline declarations? That's what I told you, right? So whatever the value you want, you can just directly pass it. So dynamically, you will be getting to know once we fill the values in your internal table. Then how can we loop that? In that cases, you can know how can the value will be dynamically passed. As of now, we are passing only the static values. We didn't go into the dynamic way of writing your ABAP code. So hold on for that. Hold on for that question, Pawan. So you'll be getting to know the answers after your internal table is completed. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. I'll be considering it as no questions. Now, so as of now, we are passing the values as statically. So that means we are passing the values. Now, my user is saying, my user is saying, my user is saying, I need a screen, I need a screen, I need a screen where I can pass the values. Guys, can you please go on mute? I can pass the values. I can pass the values and the same values with the help of those values, I need the output. With the help of those values, I need the output. I need the output. So if the user is saying that I need a screen, which is nothing but your selection screen, which is nothing but your selection screen, or I can say this as here input screen, a selection screen, or I can say this as here input screen. So this screen is mainly used to pass the input values, to pass the user defined values. So how can we create a input screen? The input screen can be created using your two keywords. Two keywords. One is the parameters, and the second one is the select options. So one is the parameters and one is your select options. So the parameters are mainly used to pass a single value. So single value in the selection screen. In the selection screen, whereas the select options is used to pass range of values. So the range of values. The select options is used for range of values. Now, I'll be dealing only with the parameters as of now. We will be seeing the select options at a later point of time. How to declare these parameters. So when I say this as parameters will be starting with P. Always remember that. So parameter P underscore the description. So whatever the description you want, and type you will be providing your the predefined type, whatever the type predefined, or you can provide your data element, or you can provide your table hyphen field, or you can provide your structure hyphen your field, whatever the structure hyphen your field. So this table hyphen field is nothing but your SE11 table hyphen field. Remember that. Whereas the structure hyphen field is also nothing but your SE11 structure hyphen your field. So this is what. Now when I declare a parameter, so I'll just say parameter p underscore input. I'm just passing this as, and type I'm just going to take cas 40. So that's it. Now when I activate this one, so previously you're seeing your output. Right now you'll be seeing a screen, input screen. Right now we'll be seeing a input screen. So here the user can pass whatever they want, whatever they want. So when whatever they want, the user can pass. So whatever the user has passed, it has to be shown in your output. So now I'll just say write the p underscore your input, right? P underscore your input. I'll just go ahead and activate this one. Now I'll just say click on execute. If I pass this and just say F8, the same value, you can see that in your output. So it see here you passed it as the small letters, automatically it has converted. So because as I told you, SAP by default it will use only your positive, it will use only your uppercase letters. So here you have used your predefined thing. Here you have used your predefined thing. Now when you pass that in your lower characters also, it will convert that into your upper characters automatically. It will convert that. So to avoid this, we have to create a data element. Inside the data element, we have to create a domain, and we have to add your lowercase, which I told you while we are dealing with your domain. So this is what your parameters is all about. Okay. So that's it. So that's the end of today's session, and we'll meet you tomorrow, and we'll see how can we work with our arithmetic calculations, and I'll be telling you the if statement. The same thing has been replaced with your conditional operator. So you might be knowing about your conditional operator. So that we will be using, that I'm going to show you, and I'll be giving you an assignment. So you have to do that assignment, and you have to complete that. So whatever the assignments I'm going to give you, so you have to do this with your old syntaxes, as well as you have to do that with your new syntaxes, and you have to submit the requirements. Just a practice purpose, guys. So it's all depends upon you whether you want to do it or not. But for few requirements, so for few requirements, I'll tell you those are most important. So that you have to complete it for sure. Okay. So that's it. So we'll meet you tomorrow again, and we'll continue with our session. So thank you. So any questions, guys,
Ravi,
before I wind up?
Ravi, so now we declaring the parameters, right? So is
Right.
SAP allows like dependent parameters based on the first parameter value, the second parameter should be mandate, or the values for the second parameter should be changed. Is there any way that we can attach LOVs for the parameters?
Yes, you can do that. I'll show you that also. Don't worry.
Okay.
You can. One second. Wait. Initialization. So you are saying that, so based on one value, so let's say if you have three parameters in your selection screen, so one parameter value you have passed, and the other two parameters has to be auto populated, right?
Yes, say for no, not auto populate. Say for example, I have selected, assuming my first parameter is country, I have selected India. So in the second
Hmm.
parameter, is there any possibility to show the list of states, and based on the states,
Ah,
is there any way that we can select the cities, or we can
hmm,
select the
we
districts?
can. Yeah, that's possible. So that we will be writing it in the events. So we have not gone into that deep dive. So that's possible over here. Don't worry on that. Okay.
Okay, okay.
So
Yeah.
you will be having an F4 help. I told you an F4 help you can create it, right? So in that F4
Mhm.
help based upon that value, so you can get the only the states of that particular country
Yes.
that you can assign it to your F4. So that I'm going to give you as your requirement only. So that's as part of my requirement. Don't worry on that. Okay,
Sure. Yeah.
so clear?
Yeah, Ravi. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions, guys? Okay, I'll be considering it as no questions and we'll meet you tomorrow at the same time and we'll continue with our session. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you all.
Thank you.